Okay, it's time to talk about picture pages. Picture pages are a fantastic resource. Um, Photographers love them. Page designers love them. Unfortunately, these days we don't see them quite as often because um, they take up a lot of space, and sometimes we don't have the space in publications for them. And perhaps we don't have the photographers to take so many such good photos, but they still happen, and people still win awards for them, and we still see them. Picture pages are thought to be pages that are mostly pictures, and I'll look at some pages from the textbook that explain a little more. Um, this is the assignment. Tell you what, let's come back to the assignment in a couple minutes. First, let me show you the some pictures, some explanation from the textbook. You should definitely go to the textbook, and if you don't have your textbook for some reason, perhaps all this confusion that we're working with these days, um, then instead perhaps you can look at this PDF, which is the pages that apply. And I strongly suggest that you read through this. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but say the picture pages, as we call them, or photo pages as they're called here, they mark an event, they tell a story, and they're the chance to be extremely visual on a newspaper page. And the same structure that's used on photo pages in newspapers in a different format, a different shape, is frequently used in magazines. So it really bridges newspapers and magazines. They're definitely different from standard news outlets, as the text says. Bend and break rules. You play with headlines. You give them more leeway to put perhaps cut lines in different places. There often is some text. All right. There sometimes isn't, but there's often text. But usually it's a very small amount of text. There are some layouts that kind of bridge illustrated stories and picture pages that are where there's more text but not as much as a regular story. The key to designing a strong picture page lies squarely in the photo edit. It's how good the photos are, how well they are edited. It's really got to have good photos. You can't just say, well, there's an event, he took a lot of pictures, we can make a picture page out of it. Did the photographer, did he or she really shoot the photos thinking of a lot of variety and how much interest they're going to have, and really showing you what their skill really is. So you should get a sense of the overall content first. This is a good example of a picture page. I really like this one, kind of at the fair, the idea of at the fair and being love at the fair. This overall structure, pick a dominant image. Every image has a caption. Play up the name of the photographer a little more than usual, more than just perhaps a photo credit here. There's a little bit of text also, just to put things in context. Think about the directionality of the photos, how directional that is, so therefore it's on this side of the page. Think about how the photos, our eye kind of wanders through them. Don't be afraid to have some white space, some space without images also. Yet the photos kind of hang together as a grouping, don't feel like they're splitting apart. Those are the things I would look at. Now, there are exceptions. This photo page in the textbook shows actually a dominant art was not chosen. These are really fascinating images of oil and water. They look like they're some kind of abstract art or something, but they're actually real natural images. And there's a little bit of text here presented in such an interesting way. And it's called Oil and Water. There usually is a big headline. The photo credit is done in a different way. This is a more traditional one here. Big image, plenty of white space here, a little bit of text. And we like to have images of different shapes, not just different sizes, but different shapes also. So we've got a pretty traditional horizontals in most of this, but some of them are more square than others. This is unusual in that they're really all the same and they're touching like this, but it makes these spirals. So we actually can break rules for a good reason in our photo pages. I really like this design decision photo spread exercise in the textbook, where he takes these same images and he looks at them first and tries to figure out what they're doing and so on, and then he tries them in different ways. He actually makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different photo pages. So I encourage you to look through these I think there's some pluses and minuses in all of them. I really like this one with the extra white space around the edges, the way it kind of grabs together, right? And the way it eye kind of goes down. Although there's something to be said for this one here and the big intro photo here. But you see there's some commonality here, right? The ones that I think are the best, they hold together in the center and we have white space on the outside. We tell a story. So photo page guidelines. I'm again not going to read through all this text, but I suggest you go back over this part of the chapter, the reading, and think about why that's weak and dull, why this is good, why this is good. Mixing shapes, sizes, making a decision what the dominant art is, making sure it's clear what goes with what. Read the story, if there's a story, or at least the captions. Captions have to be edited extremely well. I think choosing a headline at the beginning, which you might change, but at least if you have a working head at the beginning will have to focus your picture page. Expect there will be a large headline on there somewhere, at least one. So these ideas, thinking of the story that's being told, the order of the photos, kind of where the eye is going to go, where it's going to go next, committing to a dominant presence. These are all fantastic photo guidelines for picture pages, or photo pages as they're called. Headline guidelines. Writing the headline first, especially for packages where headlines are integral, I think would be really useful. You might change it. This is an interesting design because the big art is at the bottom, but yet it kind of acts as a foundation for everything. Also, there's an interesting question and answer here about whether you should put text on photos. And I honestly believe most photos have a bigger impact without it. And in general, in a picture page, we would not do it, but that's an interesting discussion there. And then more on photo page guidelines on the text and the cut lines, and another interesting page to look at here. This is more like a regular recurring feature, so that's what this eyewitness folio is about here. Again, weak and good placements, and more photo page guidelines to go through. Again, weak and good. Read through those. Take a look. This is a bit more where we have a lot of text and we're doing double trucks. This is like two big horizontal pages flowing together. A double truck, a true double truck, actually there are pages where there's no gap in between and we just go right across, which is a wonderful thing to have an opportunity to do, but they're kind of rare. So let me strongly encourage you to go through those. And you'll also see in the assignment, which is here, I put these links in here. And when you go to this link in particular, they're both generally the same place, but this brings you to the contest portion of it. It looks like this. And you can click on these, or you could go and look through categories. Categories that I think are the most useful for us are newspaper feature story, newspaper picture editor of the year in different categories, size categories. This NPAA does some remarkable contests and shows off some remarkable images, and then there isn't an actual photo page or picture page category. You just gotta look through their stuff to find those submissions, and I have some of them for you. So these are some more recent things. These are from the Washington Post, which does some amazing photo displays. I think this is in their magazine actually though. And I'm just going to go through these and mention a few things. How we have dominant art chosen, how the other art plays with it, how we're not afraid of white space around the edges, how we have these recurring and very regular gutters around too. Now these are very large gutters for this publication, and whatever that standard is. I love this page though. It's true this is part of a whole series of pages, so we don't have like repeating headlines and it's like little places. This is a global warming section that they did. So this is all these photos kind of go around and just sort of like spiral around and right into this with this beautiful, beautiful diagonal line coming down, which is almost like right into there too. So this is where photography and pages come together into maybe into art sometimes. Interesting page again. And we're back to the beginning of that one. Let me show you another one. This was the Washington Post, also a business section. Oops, let me go again. Again, more text here, but definitely interesting lines. That's a fascinating photo there. And I'm not looking at the topic so much. This is farm issues, of course. I'm just looking at the images and how they relate to each other. Some beautiful images, that makes a big difference, of course. But you can really mess them up if you just throw them all on the page the same size and said, or make them all tiny because you want to fit more photos on. That's not the point. It's not fitting as many as you can. It's just getting on the best ones in the best way. And I could go through these all day, but I'm not going to. This is evicted. More text here. This is more of a text story, but it's still interesting to look at the way the photos are played. And year in pictures. There's there's only 9 pages of this one. Again, these are double truck kind of, or magazines shape. Some more controversial decisions made here. Enormous gutters on some of these. I would call this trap white space, which is different. So we want to make sure, I'm not saying they're wrong, this is a different kind of process here, this kind of page, but in general, I would say we would tend to put the white space to the outside and not get it stuck in the middle of the page. That's beautiful. Okay, so let me get going here so we don't take up all the time just looking at these things. Let's look at the assignment. So based on that discussion, based on your reading, spend some time, go through some more of those pages if you wish. You're going to make 2 photo pages, one due right away, well, this week, in the scheme of this week by week sessions, and then another one the following week. But and you want to do them both at the beginning, fine, go ahead. Just as far as don't get too relaxed though, because we're going to have another one coming along, and it's actually assigned here, so there will be 3 in the end. We're going to have the Helvetica one. I'm going to take all those Helvetica photos. Well, I'll tell you that when we get to that other assignment. So first of all, photo page 1 has no story, just captions. All right, and I give you 1, 2, 3 topics to choose from. And if you go to Moodle, here, you'll see a picture page folder, and you would download that zip file. When you do download that zip file, what do you do with the zip file? Just to remind you, right-click on it, open with Windows Explorer. By the way, if you're going to be working in InDesign in a remote lab, you have to download that file to the computer where you're working on it, right? But maybe you want to first get it on your own computer and just go look through the images to make some decisions. So you would copy this folder and go paste it outside, which I've already done, and here it is. Inside here, you see I got 1, 2, 3 topics: boxing, Haiti, and Purim. Let's look at boxing. And here it is, and you see I have, in every case, I'm going to have a bunch of photos, and I have a bunch of cut lines in a file, and then I have a little story. The story at this stage will help you if you want to read it and think about it, and help you think about the photos. But in picture page number 2, you're going to need to use some or most of that story. They're not very long stories. They're already edited pretty tight. So what are these photos? Well, you don't have to use boxing, or you don't have to use Haiti, or you don't have to use Purim, but you're going to have to use 2 of them. So you get to skip one of them. So you just go look through these photos. I have them in a photo viewer right now here. I would just go from one to the next and think about what is my big art, what is my smaller art, what shapes do I have here, how these might be cropped differently. I got all these interesting photos. So you've got those photos, more than you're going to need. In each case, you have more photos than you will probably use. You don't have to use other photos, so don't try to do that. And then you have cut lines and you have text. And then you can let you yourself go through the Haiti ones and the Purim ones and take a look. If there's any question, I think these are pretty well edited already, but if anything shows up with any past years listed, let's just change it and make it as if it all happened this year. It's as if it all happened this year. Okay. Some of these are older photos. So you're gonna use that stuff. You're gonna download the photos. Each photo needs a cut line. Each page needs a headline. Use a regular template as an option. You could use a screen or a miter or text on photos, but remember, don't make it look gimmicky. Try to match the tone of the story and look through the samples, and you'll see, did you see in any of those award-winning pages from the New York Times, the Washington Post, did you see text on the images? Did you see a background screen? No, you didn't. Be sure to use dominant art, use white space, use the full width and height of the page, roughly. In other words, you don't just make a little something in a corner of a page, you're generally using the entire page. And there is something that's roughly the full width of the page and something that's roughly the full height of the page, but not the entirety of it. There may be unused space, white space around the edges, different places. Don't have any trapped white space. That's something to be watching for. White space which is stuck in between things. We like it to be on the outside. Keep cuts in general to the outside of the photos. Consider using side saddle cut lines. Guide your eye through the photos. Consider news value of the photos. When you're picking the photos, some photos can be used large, some will be used small, some you may recrop. Think about giving, this isn't mentioned here, but think about giving the photographer a credit of a different kind. Instead of using a photo credit with each photo, you could use a single photo credit and look at those sample stories, the samples I showed you from the text and so on, and look back in the chapter for more about that. So that's number one. That's going to be due on Thursday. And then I'm asking you to do another one, which is not going to be due until next week, but might as well work on the same time. Take a different topic area and do the same thing, except this time you have to use the story also. You may edit it slightly to trim if you need. Use our regular styles. And this will be called photo page 2. So look back at the examples again. You'll see when the text is used, the text is not dominant. It's usually not central or top of the page. It's supposed to be an accessory to the photos, but doesn't take over. So that is the photo page assignment. You're supposed to relax and enjoy this, but don't think it's just as simple as throwing a couple images on a page and being done either. There's supposed to be a lot of thought into how the play of these photos.